This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 351 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, we're going to be talking about the 3 most common SEO mistakes to avoid. And we're speaking with Mariah Liszewski. So I want to make sure before you jump into this that you are aware that if you do have little ones in the car, there are a couple choice words that are used that would not be appropriate for them. So if you have this on speaker, I would definitely recommend taking it off. You don't want them to hear those. Otherwise, you do want to make sure that you listen to this. There was so much valuable information that Mariah gave in this episode, and it is so important when we are talking about all of the scare tactics that we are hearing out about AI right now. We dive into that topic. You are going to want to listen to this. Also, make sure that you grab her SEO roadmap. You know that you can always send me a DM on Instagram, and I will send that directly into your inbox at Jenny_Melrose. All right, you guys, let's dive in. Hi, Mariah. How are you? Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, man. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you.
Yes, I am too. I love talking about SEO. It was something that I feel like I made plenty of mistakes on, which is exactly what we're going to talk about. But before we do that, will you introduce yourself and your business to my audience?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Mariah. I'm an SEO consultant and visibility strategist for online business owners. Apparently words aren't working today, over at mariahmagazine.com. So basically, in a nutshell, honestly, I'm just a firm believer that showing up on Google, increasing your visibility, like growing your business, it doesn't have to be as difficult and as overwhelming as everybody makes it. So I have over 7 years of experience as an entrepreneur in the online and digital marketing space. And in that time, I've been able to help over 100 clients get their websites found on Google by implementing a strategy that feels both doable and aligned, which I'm sure that a lot of people, when they hear SEO, they're like, yo, SEO and doable and aligned does not sound like it actually goes in the same sentence. But I find that I have this weird gift of being able to explain SEO that grounds it in, that allows people to have these perspective shifts and aha moments and truly just like harness the power of it. Because like when you use SEO, you're showing up in a space that people are already searching for what you help them solve. And I think that's kind of why I'm so obsessed with it, is because like it's truly like a magnet to your people when you know how to do it right.
Yes. No, I love that. And I think that is a huge piece of why people get scared by it, is what you said about it being aligned with the content that you create. And I think more of us are getting nervous with all the chatter about AI and about how that is going to impact us. So before we get into deep conversations like AI, let's talk a little bit basic first. So when we say SEO, what is SEO? What are we talking about?
So, yeah, this is a really good question, because I find that understanding what SEO is, why it's important, how it works, it's one of those foundational building blocks. If you don't get how it works, the whole thing's going to continue to be a mystery. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. And basically it means that your website is optimized, put together to show in search results like Google. I am really having a hard time with words today. Holy shit. Okay. So SEO helps you get free and organic traffic from search results on search engines like Google. I say like Google because when you optimize a website for search engines, those benefits help all of the other search engines. So they help Google, Yahoo, Bing, all of the big ones. It's the same thing for YouTube videos, right? When you optimize a YouTube video for SEO, it allows the search engine to show your results. The reason why us SEO folks talk about Google is honestly because they have the biggest market share right now. I don't know how long that's going to be. Like we brought up AI for a hot second, like ChatGPT was acquired by Bing. Bing's trying to come up the ladder swinging. We're going to see how Google handles it. But SEO is compared to the paid ads that are typically shown at the top of search results on Google. Okay, a lot of people think that these are the same thing. They're not. I actually don't touch Google ads. It's a different strategy. It's they're both under the same umbrella, but it's different. I don't think I've ever even logged into the Google Ads dashboard, to be honest. But those paid ads, they're only clicked about 25% of the time on average. So that means that 75% of clicks are happening on organic search results. And how we get shown in organic search results is SEO. And obviously, like, that number depends on the industry. I find that, like, lawyers, for example, that number increases. People are more likely to click on those ads. But outside of those industries, I mean, think about it. We've kind of been trained to, like, not click on the ads, because when we do, they're typically not the best solution to the problem. Besides my boyfriend, he still clicks on the ads. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, don't you realize, like, you're not getting where you want to go? Anyway, so SEO is so important because, like, your audience is already looking for the solutions that you offer. SEO is how we get Google to recommend you and your website as that solution. And then, like, if we also bring in marketing, as we know, there is, like, an unlimited amount of ways to grow a business online. But SEO is one of the only website traffic strategies that give you long-term results with both social media and with paid ads, whether it's Google ads or Meta ads, whatever you want to do. When you stop paying or you stop engaging, you lose traffic. SEO, on the other hand, it continues to build on itself if you do it correctly.
Yes. And we have been emphasizing that so much, I feel like, lately on my podcast, in the summits that I have done, is just the importance of being able to figure out what's going to work best so that you can organically be found. So when we're talking about search engines, because you mentioned YouTube, we also can talk Pinterest. It's technically a search engine, and we won't go into that tangent because I know a lot of people get angry at Pinterest at times. But how exactly do the search engines work?
Yeah, I love this question too. So Google search engines, you can kind of interchange them here. I'm going to talk from a Google perspective because that's where my zone of genius is.
Yeah.
So Google has little robots that go through and crawl the web, and they take note of websites and the pages and the content that's on the pages. And I want to say this because I feel like this is where a lot of people get confused. Pages show up on Google. Websites do not. It is a page by page basis. It is not like, oh, I'm going to target the same keyword on all of the pages on my website so my website can show up on Google. No, it's going to be your homepage that shows up on Google, or your services page, or a blog post. It's a page by page basis. Okay. So these bots go through and they scan the content of each page so that they can get an idea of, like, what the main idea of this page is, so that they can organize it and put it into Google's index. All Google's index is, it's just a really big filing cabinet. That's literally all it is. So when you search Google, it's like Google goes into that filing cabinet and tries to pull out and show you the results that it thinks best matched what you searched for. And so when Google is crawling the site, it's essentially looking for these context clues, AKA keywords. Okay. So we put the keywords in, like, the good spots where Google's going to look. And then Google takes note of that and tries to put you in the filing cabinet. And so a question that I get is, well, if I haven't focused on SEO, I'm probably not in the filing cabinet. And that's not accurate. Google has to have some kind of system to organize all of the content on the web. So you are likely in the filing cabinet, but for something that is completely irrelevant to what you want to be found for. So, like, for example, before I started focusing on SEO, I was on page 5 for the keyword, what does the name Mariah mean? And that's because Mariah was all over my website that Google was like, we don't know where else to put this girl.
Right.
So that's typically what happens when people don't focus on SEO. The Google bots are picking up on random words on your website and trying to figure out what your pages are about and then organizing it that way.
Yes. So I have a lot of listeners that are going, yep, that was me. Or the other instance or example that I normally will see from them is that they wrote something and miraculously ranked for it. And now don't like writing that content anymore. So I have a client that writes, she did this sensory bin thing when she only had 2, and then she went and had twins. And now she's like, I don't have time for the sensory bin crap. I'm not writing about that anymore. I want moms to actually do self-care for themselves. So now what she is having the trouble of is she's still getting that traffic from the sensory bins, but trying to figure out how she can let Google know, hey, I want to be known for this self-care, realistic self-care for moms. And I think that's part of the audience that I have, is that they've started off so long ago, ranked for something they didn't mean to, and now they want to actually be known for what it is that they know that they can solve a problem for their audience. How would you recommend going about switching that?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So in that example, I don't think that it's that different because it's going to be the same audience. It's how we shift the perspective within the content itself. So I would recommend going into that content and how can you shift the perspective in there to be like, hey, here's a really good solution to the problem that you have, and like give the solution to the problem, because like, if you are on page 1 of Google for something, Google sees you as the best solution to the problem. So if we're going to boil SEO down into like, what is it? It's like being the best solution to the problem. So that specific piece of content, I sound like a broken record, is the specific solution to the problem. But it's like, that is still aligned with your audience. You can perspective shift within the content itself. So go ahead and update the content and be like, hey, did you realize that, like, I don't know, your nervous system is maybe going through the roof and you're feeling really frazzled and ungrounded and whatever, and then offer a different solution in there and try to pull them into, whether it's your freebie, your podcast, wherever you want them to go, but offer it to them. That's a similar audience right there. And like, a lot of people think that in order to get on page 1, we have to regurgitate the same shit that everybody else says being on page 1. And actually, Google is updating their algorithm to try to better prioritize different perspectives of solving the same problem. So an example that I like to give, like about 1.5 years ago, I was in the sauce. I also was trying to shift away from SEO, and I was like, SEO isn't my purpose. It's not deep enough. It's blah, 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 blah. Like, I have to be a coach, right? So I'm trying to fit my square peg into this round hole of being a coach. And I was like, oh, maybe like an intuitive business coach or something. So I'm looking on page 1 because, like, to be honest, regardless of what I do in business and how I serve people, I start with keyword research first and foremost, and that will never change because the amount of data that I get to find can help me make a decision that actually works based on data, and the strategy side of me loves that. So anyways, I was looking intuitive business coach. There was somebody that, like, their blog post was 5 reasons why you need an intuitive business coach, or like how to find one. Okay. I was like, okay, read that, kind of boring, went back to Google. The next one was why you don't need an intuitive business coach. That sparked me. And so they still targeted the same keyword, intuitive business coach, but they allowed a different perspective to shine through within their content. And she basically went through of like, you need somebody that doesn't just do intuition-based coaching. You need somebody that also has foundations and strategy and whatever. And it was a brilliantly written article. But it's like, you can do that. So don't think that like SEO is this box that you need to fit yourself in. And honestly, I feel like I had to get stuck in the sauce for a while on my own journey of trying to run away from SEO in order to come back even 10 times more passionate about it, because I'm like, wait a minute, this is like SEO and what I do and how I see things is the perfect bridge for the brilliant people sharing their message and helping them get their message to the people that need it the most. So I feel like that example of just like, you're allowed to perspective shift, please do it. Just make sure that you're targeting the right keyword and the keyword is in the right places so that the Google bots get context clues.
Yes. And I think something else that you said that was important is that as the reader, you found the first one, even though it answered all the questions, boring as all get out, right? But the second one drew you in because it was that not what you were expecting. Hopefully they brought in some of their voice, their own kind of personality shown through. And I think that is also something that we're seeing more of that's being placed on is importance of personality, the voice coming through, not just simply here are the questions that you need to answer in order to rank for this based on keyword research, but also giving your little bit of story and information that is going to draw that audience to you and decide whether they actually like you. And possibly get on your email list, which is ultimately the goal.
Yep. Yep, for sure. And this is kind of where AI fits in. So a lot of SEO people, they're freaking out, right? And
Yes.
I mean, I could freak out. I could choose to freak out if I wanted to, but I've always been quick to evolve, to be honest. Like just my entire life, I've always been really quick to jump into the process of transformation, whether I logically wanted to or not, but it's something in me that I enjoy evolving. And how I see this happening is that it's just an evolution. And honestly, the old way of doing SEO has been dying. Truly, like the old way of hiring an agency, not getting empowered or educated on what they're doing, and then having to pay them in order to stay in Google. I think that is dying. And we see it a lot with like corporate marketing, who's still really like holding and grasping onto that. But like as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as somebody that's following your own path, we get to do things differently. And I think that we're on the front end of this. But essentially, AI, it's really great for getting an outline, for creating content without having to look at a blank page. Okay. But the thing is that Google already announced if it can tell that it was generated by AI, you are not going to rank. So what that means is you can use AI to create a blog post, by all means, have at it. But then an invitation to go in and reword and rework and add your story and add your perspective so that it sounds different. So I feel like the spotlight isn't just going to be on regurgitating the same shit anymore, which a lot of people got away with, but instead it's, why should I choose you? Like, why are you an expert? Why are you an authority? How can we connect? And Google's making a bunch of algorithm changes that actually support this. So for me, I think that AI actually makes SEO more accessible because like me as a consultant, I only take a very small limited of done for you clients, but I have other clients that we do SEO consulting. And sometimes they'll be like, listen, we have to write this blog post. Like if we want to target this keyword, people are looking for information. You're the perfect person to be able to explain that to them. But sometimes my client either doesn't have the time to write a full piece of content, or some of them don't have the budget to hire a copywriter. So it's like, if you can then just spend an hour doing AI, you can whip up this content, have it generate for you an outline within, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. And then you get to spend the rest of the time beefing it up and adding your personality to it. How brilliant is that? I just think that it's making everything a lot more accessible, truly.
Okay, so I wanted to make sure that we talked about 3 common mistakes. And I think the first one that we've kind of really made sure that we have touched on, and I'm so glad we did because this is continually coming up with clients that I have, as well as inside my membership site, is that the first mistake is to be scared of it, AI. You do not need to be scared of it. You need to actually just roll with it, use it to be able to continue to improve upon what you're going to be able to create. Because like you said, the amount of time it takes to do it is going to be a lot less. What would be 2 other mistakes that you would have about when it comes to SEO? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so I would say the first mistake is people are not setting up Google Search Console. People don't even know what that is. And so a lot of people are aware of like what Google Analytics is, and them moving from the GA for it. That can be a conversation for a different day. Not a big fan of it, but whatever. So Google Analytics is essentially how, like, you can see the traffic and the data of like how people are using your website, where they're coming from, all of that stuff. Great, perfect, awesome tool for marketing. Google Search Console is how Google sees your site. By having Google Search Console set up, which it's free, it's honestly pretty easy to set up. I have some YouTube videos that I can share with your audience. And basically, once you set that up, you can then start to generate the data and be able to see exactly what keywords you're showing up on Google for. A lot of people think you have to pay for this information. You don't, for your own website. If you wanted to stalk my data and see what I'm showing up on Google for, you're going to need to pay for an SEO tool. Your keywords and that, you get access to that for free if you set up Google Search Console. The other cool thing about it is these robots that go through when they scan the content on a website, they're consistently rescanning your website to make sure that you are still in the right section of the filing cabinet. But when they scan the website, they might see an error on your site. They might be like, oh, this is an issue. And so what they're not going to do is head over to your contact page and send you a lovely email about like, hey, by the way, like you have an error on your website. They're not going to do that. What they will do is show you that error in Google Search Console. A lot of people like don't realize that we actually have access to this. And it's free. Even if you don't want to look at the data yet, I get it. Set it up so that when you're ready to hire a marketing person, an SEO consultant like me, we have data to go off of. So we're just not throwing noodles at the wall to see what sticks. So I would say that that's definitely the first mistake.
I love it. Yes. And I do. I think people hear Google Search Console and we start to freak out when in reality, it's just something easy to set up and it starts, all the data just starts acquiring and you're able to then use it and analyze it and go to a next tool if you need to go bigger and better. What would be your next mistake?
Yeah, this is hard to only pick out one more, but I would say that one of the biggest mistakes that I see people making is that they don't understand keywords. And this is an issue because keywords are the middleman for connecting your website with the people that are searching for it. Like I went off on Instagram about like how people are, they're just like getting keywords wrong. And I'm like a lot like people think that a keyword is only like one or two words. The word keyword is actually misleading because keyword actually means whatever string of words compile into your Google search. So this could be a phrase, also known as a long tail keyword, also known as a query. Keyword, honestly, same thing. Okay. So a lot of people like e-commerce shop owners, they're trying to target things like t-shirt, candle, and it's not specific enough. Service providers, y'all are trying to target designer, coach, copywriter, not specific enough for a couple of reasons. Number one, we don't know how far the person is in the journey. Okay. So it's like, how can we be the best solution to the problem if we don't know if they're ready to hire a copywriter, if they are looking to become a copywriter, looking for DIY tips or tools or whatever. And the more specific that we can get for a keyword, obviously the less amount that it's searched, but it's more likely that that person is going to convert. Because if like I can target a keyword, an example of like, let's say that I needed new shoes for a wedding guest dress. It's like I would not go to Google and type in shoes. I would get hit with all different types of shoes. That would be awful, a terrible experience. What I would do is type in black high heel open toe shoes. Super specific, but the results that are showing up on page 1, I am more likely to convert because that is very specific of where I am in the buyer's journey. I know what I want and I know how to get there now, and I know how to purchase it. The other thing is the intent. Okay. So when you type in something super specific, you can be a lot more clear about like what information you're showing to be the best solution to the problem, which this is essentially what helps people convert. But it's like, if I'm trying to target copywriter, like I said, am I looking to hire a copywriter, become a copywriter, DIY copywriting tips? Like, it's way too competitive and you will not become the best solution to the problem for copywriter unless you're like Neil Patel or like the Oprah of copywriting, who's like super well known. And so us smaller online business owners, we think that SEO is too competitive because that's what we think that we have to target: copywriter, designer, shoes. But SEO is not too competitive. You're just not understanding how keywords work and how to infuse them into your website correctly. So there are actually so many gaps in the market. I've worked with hundreds of clients and I'm yet to find one client where we cannot find a gap in the market. And so it's like just reframing what a keyword actually is can be extremely beneficial.
Yes. I think that was probably one of the most eye-opening moments for me was when I finally understood keyword research and knowing what to use as far as my terms, because prior to doing what I do now, I had a food blog and I had created these adorable little love bug fruit cups. That was my keyword. And of course, no one in their right mind is searching for love bug fruit cups. I had made this up of something I thought was cute. Did great on Pinterest because it was before they went search engine. And finally, once I understood keywords, I was like, oh, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. Switched it to non-candy Valentine's Day ideas. And all of a sudden, it got picked up by Google. Yes, it was that. It was that understanding of what are people putting in to find what I'm going to provide them with. And I think that was the missing piece for me for a long time before I really understood keywords. But it makes such a huge difference. And understanding those huge volume keywords, no, you're not going to necessarily rank for those, but you can find smaller within them that are multiple words, like you said, long tail, that you can then rank for. I love that you brought up keywords. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the most difficult part of SEO?
I think it's staying focused. Honestly, is probably one of the hardest things because like when I do, and I'm speaking from my client's perspective and also mine, but it's like when you start doing keyword research, it is you can be so inspired and motivated because there are truly unlimited possibilities. I think that the hardest thing for people is prioritizing what's actually important because we also combine that unlimited possibility with the fact that Google judges your website on over 200 factors. So it's like, how do you know what to prioritize? And that's really like why my clients come to me, because it's like, we find the gaps in the market so that your SEO does not have to be perfect. Because a lot of people be like, well, what do I have to do to get on page one? You have to be the best solution to the problem, but you have to relay that you're the best solution to the problem on Google. And in order to be the best solution, you have to be better than the people on page one. And the people on page one are going to differ depending on the keyword that you're trying to target. So what you have to do in order to get on page one for the phrase shoes is a hell of a lot more in line with perfection than black open-toed shoes for wedding guest dress. So right. I think it's being able to hold on to the fact that, holy shit, we have so much potential here. But how do we prioritize this to get the best bang for our buck and be able to use the resources that we already have? So it's like those SEO agencies that I was talking about, a lot of the time they're helping the bigger corporate businesses. And so they're creating content for either somebody on their team that is an SEO person to do the next layer of SEO, more advanced SEO, or they're going to try to overwhelm you, the smaller business owner, so that you're just like, fuck it, take my money. Like, I don't even want to deal with this. Right. So I think a lot of the content out there, and that's why I'm so passionate about breaking this down, because it is attainable, it is accessible, it is approachable. We can balance the unlimited possibilities with prioritizing. We just have to know that the way that SEO has been explained in the past isn't beneficial to everybody listening. Does that make sense?
Yes. Nope, absolutely does. And so true, because it does. It just... when you don't understand it and then you throw money at it, how do you know that it's actually improving it? Not knowing.
Or you have these agencies that try to use old school scare tactics. Like I had a girl in high school that reached out. She does like eyelash extensions, and she ended up having a contract with an SEO agency, and they told her, if you stop paying, you will drop out of page one the next week. And I was like, either A, they're lying, or B, they're about to take out all the work that they did that you paid for, which I'm pretty sure is illegal. But it's like, she came to me and she was like, what? Like, how do I handle this? And I was like, try to break that contract. Like that is A, that's not okay on like a moral ground. And B, it's not true. Like, it's not accurate. No,
absolutely. So tell me about your SEO roadmap. What can we expect to get from it?
Yeah. So the roadmap to successful SEO, essentially in there, like, as you can tell, I kind of like to break things down and just give examples in an easy way to understand things. So in the roadmap, I dive into what SEO is, why it's important, how search engines work, kind of like the written form of what we dove into in the beginning of this. And then the details on my 6-step process. So when I got into SEO, I hated it. I thought it was the worst thing on the face of the planet, couldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. But that's because I was trying to learn SEO from that agency standpoint, reading all of the content for advanced people and reading the content that was meant to confuse me. So what I ended up doing, because apparently I like doing hard things, I went in and taught myself SEO, and I kind of took it apart and I put it back together in a way that made sense. And I tested that process with my own website because I was really into blogging. And then I also started testing it with website design clients. So I was a website designer and developer before I started focusing on SEO. So I kind of started testing and tweaking this own process. And so the roadmap goes into the 6-step process. And then I also go into an overview of why you're not getting the results from SEO that you want and what happens when you skip a step of the system. So all of that very educational, like foundation based. And then I dive into the 3 tasks that you can start doing today to help improve your SEO. So I go over how to set up Google Search Console. And then I go over some other things that I suggest that people start with.
Okay. Perfect. We're going to link to that in the show notes. My people listening know you can always send me a DM on Instagram and I will send that directly into your inbox too, so that you can just download it and grab it. Mariah, this was such great information. I really, truly appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and share with my audience.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And guys, if you're listening, if you have questions about SEO, first download that roadmap and then DM me on Instagram too. I hang out on Instagram, Mariah Magazine CO. Slide into my DMs. Let me know what's confusing. Let me know if you need help with anything. And then if you just want access to like DIY tutorials for website and tech, SEO, all of those things, check out my YouTube channel, Mariah Magazine over there. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'm definitely here. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. All right. Well, there you have it. Hopefully you are feeling better about all of the scared things that you were hearing about AI and understand that you can put things into practice and don't need to be afraid of SEO if you already ever were in the past. Make sure if you haven't already that you go and grab her SEO roadmap that is linked in the show notes. And as always, if you haven't left a rating and review, I would so appreciate it if you took the time to do that. Just scroll past the episodes and it's going to be right there at the bottom. Leave me a quick note, just what you thought about the episode. And I just appreciate it because it helps to continue to get great guests. All right, you guys, until next time.